Okay, I'm going to call to order the December 17, 2025 meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission being held in the Don B. Griffin Room at Harwich Town Hall. This meeting is being held hybrid, attendance in person and online through GoToMeeting as possible. You may find instructions for logging on to the GoToMeeting on the agenda, which is published on the Town of Harwich website. So we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 5 Kildee Road, map 13, parcel S3-0 for the construction of addition with a 31 square foot net increase in site coverage within the land subject to coastal swimming flood.
Good evening. Corey Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Johnson is in the audience tonight. So as stated, this is a small addition. A little less than half of that addition is within the floodplain, so it requires review from the commission. The area where this addition's going is primarily lawn, and there's an existing walkway that'll be removed as part of the project. The net increase within the floodplain is 31 square feet. There is another wetland to the northeast of the property, but we're outside that 100-foot buffer of that wetland. That's wetland is contiguous with the Allen's Harbor wetland that goes underneath Kildee. There's this culvert underneath Kildee that connects all that. There are no performance standards for the floodplain in the Wetlands Protection Act, and there are no floodplain regulations in Harwich. So we think this warrants a negative determination of the rules and regulations.
Okay, thank you. Amy.
It's pretty straightforward. As David said, it's only a 31 square foot net increase within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Because it is construction, we do like to throw maybe a couple conditions on there instead of doing it administratively. An RDA was appropriate. We don't have mitigation requirement for new structures in the flood zone right now. The addition is in an open area. No trees or any major vegetation would need to be removed. As our normal conditions, conditioning against fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. Area is pretty low in topography, and I would think that groundwater is not too far down. So traditionally, when you do work on a lot, you put that condition on there. So I would recommend approval with a -2 determination. That work would take place in a wetland resource area, which is the flood zone, but will not have an adverse impact to that area or its interests.
Sophia.
No questions from me.
No questions for me.
I don't see any impact at all.
No.
Nothing, John.
Okay. I have one question, which is just looking at how the floodplain is mapped on Mass Mapper, the FEMA. It actually shows a line between 100-year flood and whatever it is, the 500-year thing, going through a little part of the house there. In your description, I forget what it is exactly in your submission of how you determine floodplain, reference surveying. I mean, it may be off. I'm not saying this is a reason to change anything, but I'm just asking the question of how what you did relates to the FEMA map.
So the FEMA map is based upon a type of surveying called LiDAR, so it is a aerial imaging method. And the FEMA maps are derived from that. And it's my understanding that the purpose of the map is to direct local agencies or inform local agencies that there is a floodplain there, and that further investigations required. Similar to the DEP wetland maps, there's a disclaimer on those that says they're not to be used for delineation purposes. They're just as a tool to give the public and public agencies notice that there is a wetland there and it needs to be investigated. So we use an established benchmark by the National Geodetic Survey, and we work off that benchmark and transfer an accurate elevation to the site when we do our site survey, and then determine on the ground where that floodplain line is. And it always is different than the FEMA map. In most cases, within 5 feet, 10 feet. Never do we see a departure of more than that, unless it's very, very flat topography. And this is relatively flat, but the LiDAR imagery is, I think, good to 1/10 of a foot, or it's done at 1/10 of a foot, and they say it's good to within 1/2 a foot, I think. But
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the actual floodplain on the ground
Right.
that David
This is your
delineated.
surveyed.
Correct.
yes.
All right. That's all. Thank you. I don't have anything more.
I'll make the motion for a -2 determination for 5 Kilby Road, map 13, parcel S3-0, with the following condition that not use any fertilizer, pesticides, or herbicides.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
0, thank you. Next, we have a notice of intent for 140 Forest Street, map 31, parcel B7, for the construction of an addition to the single-family dwelling, removal of the existing deck, installation of a proposed raised paver patio, and proposed planting of native plants to offset the additional site coverage between the 50 and 100-foot buffer area of the lot. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
That was Susan.
Hi. Susan Ledoux. I prepared the notice of intent filing, and Andrew Garrelay prepared the landscape plan. So I'll just quickly go over the cover letter and then turn it over to Andrew, if that's okay. Let's see. The attached notice of intent filing package for 144 Street is being submitted with the proposed site plan and landscape plan. The proposed project includes the construction of an addition to the existing single-family dwelling, removal of the existing deck, which includes a hot tub, installation of the proposed raised paver patio, and planting of native plants to offset the additional site coverage between the 50 and 100-foot buffer area on the subject lot. The existing conditions, this lot's located in the RL zone, and it is 19,529 square feet with almost 120 feet of frontage on Forest Street. The edge of the wetland was delineated by Riverhawk Environmental in 2018, as shown on the attached site plan. About half this lot's located within the 100-foot buffer area, with a very small portion within the 50-foot buffer along the lot frontage of Forest Street, to a bordering vegetated wetland located on the lot to the north and to the east across Forest Street. There's an existing single-family home. It's 2019. It was built, a shed, septic system, driveway on this lot. There's approximately 856 square feet of existing disturbed area in the 50 to 100-foot buffer area. which includes a portion of the single-family home, existing retaining wall, existing deck, and existing driveway. And proposed conditions, the attached plans show an additional site disturbance in the 50 to 100 foot buffer of 364 square feet for a total of 1,220 square feet. The additional coverage includes the proposed addition to the home, raised paver patio, which is less than 3 feet high with a drain, retaining wall, masonry stairs, and a handrail, as well as the installation of a dry well. The proposed dry well will capture runoff from the roof and patio with no runoff directed toward the resource area. The existing deck will be removed and the remaining site will be revegetated. The existing gravel driveway within the 100-foot buffer area will be reduced from 15 feet wide to 10 feet wide. The remaining side of the driveway will be loam and seeded with fescue grass blend. I'm going to skip over the total mitigation. We are doing mitigation. I'm going to let Andrew cover that in his presentation. Approximately 105 feet of limit of work silt fence and wattles will be installed to contain the proposed work. And the proposal includes removing 165 square feet of existing lawn area, and I'll leave that to Andrew to finish that up. Temporary above-ground irrigation will be maintained for a 2-year period to ensure the restoration plants will survive. And if necessary, a single rail, split rail fence or other marker will be installed between the existing lawn area and newly planted restoration buffer plants, so they'll not be disturbed by foot traffic or maintenance of lawn. That we did also include a work and construction protocol, which I can go over, or I can let Andrew go ahead, and then Amy did bring a couple of items to our attention this afternoon, which we can address. Andrew, thanks.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Garrelay, registered landscape architect, Yarmouthport Design Group. I did the landscape portion of this plan and the mitigation requirements as well. So I'm going to kind of hold this up a little bit. So the proposed addition is in this location onto the front of the house, and the raised patio comes off of that addition and is here on the side of the property. There's an existing gravel driveway in this area that's going to be removed, and also the gravel driveway is very wide, so we're going to narrow down that driveway to 10 feet wide. And then the new parking location will be over here, over the existing septic system. It is an age 20 septic system with some stepping stones connecting to the new porch. This portion of the site has a poured concrete walkway that will be taken out with the porch built over that, and then the new porch comes around this side of the new addition. The mitigation calculations were for 364 square feet of additional site coverage in the 100-foot buffer, 50 to 100-foot buffer. So mitigation, we doubled that for a mitigation requirement of 728 square feet. So we're showing mitigation here close to this wetland in the approximately within 75 feet or so of that wetland. We talked with Amy about doing it down here because the 50-foot buffer from the wetland across the street, but she thought it was better to put it here because there's a road between the wetland and the 50-foot buffer that's on this property. So that's why we selected to put the mitigation in that location. As was mentioned, there's all the runoff on this patio. The patio is pitched to a channel drain that's located here where the patio meets the retaining wall. The retaining wall will be a modular block retaining wall, so there's no deep footing being dug, and then some steps coming down here. The existing unpermitted deck and hot tub will be removed. It shouldn't have been there in the first place, and the removal of that did not go into the calculations of the mitigation. The calculations of mitigation were, the only removal that was going into that was the parking area and the narrowing of the driveway. There's also a patio outside the 100-foot buffer here with a fire pit on it. And that's where we are for the proposed work.
Thank you for that. As Andrew said, what came up today was, and I know we've had conversations before, about, some of the activities on the site related to, tornado activity, as well as, work that would need permitting, and that's kind of where they're at now. So the hot tub and deck that are there approximately 90 feet away from the wetland will be coming out, as Andrew had said. And it's not in the same place, but off the house is proposed to be a dry laid patio.
It's dry laid, but it's also, we're also catching whatever
gonna have a
runoff
drain.
is drained, yeah.
Great. And I think the reduction in, the proposed addition is approximately 85 feet away from the wetland. Patio, another 10 feet or so off of that. So your closest bit of new structure is roughly 70 to 75 feet from the edge of the wetland to the north, and that's a bordering vegetated wetland. As Andrew had stated, when we met on site, they were contemplating, and it's still up to you, but putting their mitigation plantings closer to Forest Street. I thought that they would serve better wildlife habitat and to add to existing natural area to that wetland to the north, to provide more diversity and habitat to that, rather than having just kind of a strip of plantings along the road to Forest Street. However, I mean, in chatting or going back and forth with email this afternoon, the privet that is there, that probably shouldn't be there, could be proposed to be removed, which is a hedge, and replanted with appropriate natives. You had mentioned winterberry holly, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
Great plant, one of my favorites, but
Great hedge, too.
I want to just make sure that at the elevation that it's going to be at, which is about elevation 15, that you think it's going to be close enough to water to make it happy.
Yeah, and I've done this, I've done winterberry hedges in several locations. I'm thinking of one in particular in Chatham, where Oyster Pond is. It's Queen Anne Road, Old Queen Anne Road, or something right there, where it's a house that's directly opposite the very head of Oyster Pond. It's very similar to this situation. It's across the street, and it's
A little
the
bit up.
bank goes up, and we've done that, and it thrives, and it's
Right.
absolutely gorgeous this time of year with orange berries on it.
Yep, it's a great plant.
Then
So
in 2 days, they get devoured. It's really
Yeah.
interesting to see.
you have to get to them before the animals do, but they're supposed to be for the animals, I guess,
Well, no,
right?
the animals devour, it's all of a sudden, they wait, and then all of a sudden, they just attack it in like a couple of days. It's pretty cool.
I do recall, because I was here when the tornado hit, I do recall Dean reaching out, the owner, who's in the audience, saying, and having damage, and that was a time where we were scrambling so much with so much damage everywhere. It was kind of like people had, you notified me, you had a few trees down, we just clean it up. So that's certainly not the whole front yard area, but I do recall that conversation that there were a few trees that came down and had to be removed there. So that being said, they've had permit for a little bit of tree work. We did say it should be a native lawn. It currently looks like it is being treated. Having conversation with the owner, they're willing to agree to the condition of ceasing doing that, given the sensitivity of the lot. Can't think of really anything. Oh, we don't have a DEP number for this, at least the last time I checked at about 4 p.m. So unfortunately, it won't be something to vote on tonight, but hopefully we can get questions and answers and just be waiting for that file number next time. And that should be it, so. That's all I've got.
I don't have anything, John, it's pretty simple.
It looks straightforward. I just had would the best case scenario be the mitigation to the north where you spoke about, and then that Winterberry across the front? Is that something that folks would be amenable to take out the privet and put that in? I know that's the only
Absolutely,
question I
absolutely.
It would be in addition to the mitigation
In
that you're
addition to
doing
the
there. It's
mitigation,
basically to
yeah.
swap the privet out
Yeah.
with a native.
Absolutely.
Once the privet's out of there, the Winterberry, I believe, would be a good substitute, but you still gotta, I mean, to how I understand this here, the 50-foot buffer is still pretty much wide open. It seems to me like that area could be bolstered a little bit on the, on the eastern edge there. I don't see that being a bad thing at all.
Would you like to see some of the mitigation plants that they put on the north side be located?
No, that being a buffer zone down there, that shouldn't be a mitigation factor. It never is anywhere else. You know, that's always further back, so there'd be room on the west side of the 50-foot line to recover and build up. But it seems like that area between the 50-foot line and the street should have a little more focus on being filled in.
We could add some native plants into that, and maybe we could bring that Winterberry hedge to the 50-foot line and infill from where the Winterberry hedge is, where the privet hedge is, to that 50-foot line with similar native plants to what we're showing in the mitigation.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, we could do that.
I think more of a buffer.
Yes, sir.
You'd be good with that?
Just wanna be cognizant of the road layout there too, cause there's probably a good 10-15 feet between the edge of the property line and the road there, so that area we can't necessarily require them to fill in.
But I think in this case, it's off property, but typically, obviously, you can't put mitigation into that and use the calculation, but I think standard practice on a residential
Yeah.
development of putting landscape plants within
Mhm.
the road layout is
True.
never a problem.
True.
So I don't think it would be a problem for us to put native plants in that.
I don't think we're planning on widening Forest Street either.
Right, and the hedge is a bit back from the road,
Yeah.
and we
Yep.
wouldn't go further
Okay.
than the hedge toward the road.
Alright,
I think that makes sense. I think another benefit that you get from that is that it allows a little bit of a corridor for wildlife to move along the
Okay.
side of Forest Street, because there's woodland here too,
Yeah.
so it's beneficial.
mm-hmm.
Just a couple of thoughts to offer, which was the mulch kind of space on the right caught my eye, and when I was looking at the plant list, which looks great, the one thing that stood out is, that mulch area looks like it would be maybe a great spot for the sweet fern to go, which had, like, it can be a little bit picky, I'm sure you know, but that looks like a nice hot kind of area for it to bake and colonize if that's available for it.
And maybe we could scatter, not at the kind of density that we use for mitigation, but maybe we could scatter a little bit of sweet fern in there.
Let them fill in.
I think it'd be nice to fill in that space, and that seems like that would be a good spot for it. And with the Winterberry hedge, I think that's, you know, a great swap, privet to Winterberry. I will offer one thing, which is not a design point on that hedge in Chatham that you're talking about, but as a management thing for the future, which is that seems to be kind of ailing because it's buried in mulch, again, which is not on you. It's an amazing hedge, but just
Oh, you're
like,
familiar with it?
yeah, I am, of course. Yeah, I would just say either considering some sort of native ground cover would be maybe beneficial, so that there isn't the temptation to just kind of continue to
Bury it
mulch
in
it,
mulch.
or make sure that,
Mhm.
you know, it gets stripped every couple of years and reapplied, but.
We usually say no mulch, other than maybe a one-time application of a natural leaf mulch, to help keep moisture in for that first season, so. mulch, we generally don't permit in our restoration or mitigation areas, or within the 50-foot buffer. Good point.
That's all, otherwise, it's good.
All set?
All set.
I just want to follow up on a few of these things, specifically about the mulch, trying to just correlate what I see in the plan with what I see in satellite photos of the lot, and it's along the driveway and between the privet and the road. It says existing mulch, but there's this other large area with a curved boundary on the northeast side of the lot. It says existing mulch, and when you look online and see a photograph, it's not clear. I mean, that looks like a much bigger area on the plan than you see in the photograph.
Mhm.
I mean, one question is it just mulch, or is there must be vegetation there, or is this
No,
this is
that's where the
being
trees were.
heavily mulched in order to suppress vegetation? Because
I don't think it's
that's
that
what we
thick.
want.
I don't know the history. The first time I've been to the site was this summer.
I think that's where the trees came down, if I'm
Yeah.
correct, during the tornado. Was that kind of hummock there?
Well,
But yeah,
speaking of which, again, you go look at the satellite
Mhm.
photographs, and if you go back to 2018, that whole area that's the front yard is all trees.
mhm.
There's no evidence of any clear space, and while of course the tornado impacted a lot of places and took down trees, but I don't think it clear cut anything, including this lot. So
Mhm.
I understand that it was bad time. I mean, it happened.
I don't know.
That happened right
Right.
before COVID. It wasn't during COVID. The
Right.
tornado was 2019. So
That was 21.
2019.
The tornado?
I thought it was
2019.
2019. And
long time ago.
right, and a lot of trees came down
Yeah.
a lot of places, but I'm just curious why the result of the tornado was clear cutting that whole lot. I don't think that's great at all. So I think we have to pay attention
Mhm.
to what's happening here. Certainly don't want any kind of, any treatment of the lawn. Organic, top dressings, nothing. But I think there should be more either shrubs or trees replanted in this area, since there were never any permits given for clear cutting this area within the 100-foot buffer. And while I understand that it might have been a time of confusion
Yeah,
because of everything else that was going on, I'm not sure that justifies just clear cutting a lot. I'm not sure what the right remedy is, but Mark was suggesting more planting west of the current hedge line, which I think is a good idea. And I don't really think that just putting the Winterberry where the 50-foot line is and filling everything to the east of that with plantings, that seems like pretty slim compensation for cutting down a whole bunch of trees that shouldn't have been cut down and planting an apparently well-fed lawn in its place.
I'm unfamiliar with what existed there before.
Well,
As I
you
said.
did you wanna
Go
come
on.
up, Dean?
I mean, I'd just like to address the tree issue if I could. Dean
Just-
Ferrioli, homeowner,
If
one
you
of the
could just
homeowners.
repeat it into the microphone so
Sure.
when people watch.
Dean Ferrioli, 140 Forest Street, one of the homeowners with myself and my fiance. One was the tornado that came through, and then there was another storm that we had. Shortly after that, we had like that, they had not quite a hurricane, but what's the, down from a hurricane, storm. But they came literally down Lowell County Road, right through, if you go there now and look at what is Leo Cahonis's land next to mine, towards the ocean side, you can still see all the trees that had fallen on his side also. That came through, cleared into, knocked a tree over into my truck, and went right through my front yard, right across into the pond across the street. On top of that, at the same time, Eversource took all the trees in the front. They were doing the cutting for the lines. So Eversource came through, they had marked with the town went through, saw them all, saw all the trees that were in the front, in that 50 and all that up in there. That was, Eversource had gone through there and taken those out. So were more trees taken out than possibly needed to be? Yes. Did I clear cut that lot? No, I didn't clear cut that lot. But most of the damage was done either between the storms and Eversource. And I just tried to make it look as good as I could for a yard. I understand the problem that I, created by doing that lawn the way I did. And I'm here to try to rectify it and try to get kind of on the straight and narrow and going the right way. All I can do is beg for forgiveness.
Okay, well, extenuating circumstances, I guess. The question is what to do about it now. So I think,
How would the commission, if I can offer a suggestion, hopefully something everybody could live with, is that, probably should use your landscape plan instead, it's a little bigger.
One here on the board.
Sure. I'll stand by the mic too. So we typically have a 50-foot no disturb zone. Understood, for a variety of circumstances, we have disturbance in the 50-foot buffer zone here. So like you said, put in the Winterberry, but if there could be stuff between the 50 and then the pavement, great. To go a little bit farther, because things were maybe altered, and not just because of natural circumstances, but otherwise, could we go to 60 foot? 60 foot, essentially, no disturb zone here, and plant that area.
And put the Winterberry at the 60.
No, Winterberry,
Oh, okay.
so you'd need to do a little bit of design like you did here. I probably wouldn't want to see all Winterberry, but some variety, basically from 60 feet to the road.
Well, would you have a problem with me moving the Winterberry to the 60 and then going in front of, towards the road with everything else?
I would just want to make sure that that's not too high in elevation for it, which it looks like it's probably elevation between still 15 and 16.
just another point of clarification. We're talking about Winterberry and talking about replacing the entire privet hedge. It runs roughly east-west and then roughly north-south, that whole thing. So, but that's gonna be up to an elevation of 18 on the western end of the head, so if that,
I don't know enough about the plant to know if that's going to be, okay.
Can if we have to continue this because there's no number anyway, is it possible to sort of have a poke around and think about what are some other
We can
kind of points
revise,
of mitigation that can be done between now and when we meet next time and
revise the plans
Yeah,
anyways.
revise the plans.
Yeah, they're going to revise the plans anyway, yeah.
and can you just clarify for me what's happening where it says existing mulch in the northeast corner, and then existing vegetation? How much of that area that says existing mulch is just mulch? I mean, because it doesn't look like that.
So this is that mulch, mounded mulch area?
That's a mound, so it was just in the face of it is mulch. On the top of it is just the natural. In other words, that's kind of like a raised area.
is
Yeah,
this
like a
it?
berm.
Is this it
Yeah.
right here?
And the,
Yeah.
correct. And then the,
I see, but you got a few plants in there.
Well, they're scrub oak, it's not, I think
Yeah,
it's
they're
just
coming in.
naturalizing.
I think we talked about adding, scattering in some sweet fern into that area.
That would be, yeah,
'Cause it's kind of high and dry a little bit.
Yeah,
And then that'll start to establish and various other things will start growing in there without the addition of mulch.
yeah, yeah. Depending on how deep the mulch is, you say it's not that deep.
I don't think it's
What
deep.
we've had people do is, you know, if it's more than an inch or two deep, we usually have you remove some.
No more than an inch or two.
Yeah, so that way things can grow faster, but if it's, yeah, we can look at it.
If there are oaks wanting to come in there, just let them come in, I would say.
Right, just let that area come back.
Okay,
So
so
let it
you have to
naturalize.
continue anyway.
Yeah, but no questions about the construction aspect of things, it sounds like. I'm in favor of, a or split rail fence in the mitigation area on the north side, not in by the road or anything, but I would be in favor of that to kind of separate what should stay natural with landscape area.
Just a-
Amy, could we do a single rail, split rail?
We've allowed that before,
Yeah, okay, right,
or intermittent stones, big stones.
Yeah. okay.
So can I just clarify for the, like, roadward side, is the discussion that that might be just like a fully vegetated strip, not just a hedge with ground cover? Like, is that what we're thinking about?
So my understanding is along the house side of that buffer line, we'll put a hedge line of winterberry. Between that and where the privet hedge now exists, we'll infill with the same kind of material like we have in the
Within
mitigation
the
area.
60 foot, so as you head towards the road.
60 foot, yeah.
Yeah, so infill it. Okay. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Me,
So we can't vote tonight, so our next meeting is January 7th. I would need things by noon on New Year's Eve, when we leave here. So the 7th is our next meeting.
Very
So make
doable.
a motion to continue?
Yeah.
Please do.
All right, I'll make a motion to continue, to January 7th. The notice of intent for 140 Forest Street, map 31, parcel D7.
second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. 6-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, next. We have a notice of intent for 7 Shoal Hope Drive, map 4, parcel D1-11, SE 32-2623, for the construction of an addition to the house and expansion of an existing deck within the riverfront area. This has been continued from our December 3rd, 2025 meeting.
Lynn Hamlin is out of the country, and I said I didn't think she needed to worry about being here for it. So if you recall, last time, we were waiting for a DEP number. We now have that. And also on the north side of the path, as you're walking down to the water, there was a patch of mostly bittersweet. And the way the mitigation planting had been drawn before was like around that, and it would have been a pain to try to control it. So instead, they are proposing to remove the invasives, and you have a new planting plan in front of you that shows that area to be replanted. So I would now recommend approval of the project.
Discussion? Anybody have anything to say?
Nope, not me.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve notice of intent for 7 Shoal Hope Drive, map 4, parcel D1-11, SE 32-2623.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have a notice of intent for 11 Riverbend Road, map 1, parcel G1-9, SE 32-2622, for float relocation and maintenance dredging. This has been continued from the December 3rd, 2025 meeting. Request has been made for continuance to January 7, 2026.
They need more time for plan revisions, so they would like January 7th.
Oh, did I say the 6th?
I don't know.
January 7th. Okay,
I'll move for continuance, January 7th.
I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we have an order of conditions for 0 Northwest Gate Road, map 66, parcel K1-3, SE 32-2620, for the removal of the dilapidated barn structure and concrete slab and restoration of the disturbed area with native plants.
Do you have copies? Did you get copies of this?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. It's the removal of the old barn structure, and also the debris in and around it. Hopefully you, John, you had sent me a comment about, or kind of a question / comment about one of the conditions, so I figured I would just let you speak if you wanted to.
Okay,
It's about the language.
All right, I will. I was triggered by this particular order of conditions. Now, I have to dig up my emails so I can.
You said not that these folks we'd have to worry about it
wasn't-
because it's
it was-
HCT,
It
but
was not out of concern for
this particular
order
project.
of conditions, but I have asked Amy more than once to change the language about fertilizer without being very specific, and I thought that the language in here was more confusing and misleading than what we've done in the past, so I suggested specific language, which is, let's see, it says now, no nutrients, pesticides, or herbicides are to be used. I think that term, no nutrients, is going to just, too nonspecific. So I am suggesting no fertilizers, soil amendments containing nitrogen or phosphorus, plant nutrients, pesticides, or herbicides. So, and the motivation for this specific language is to include anything that would be contributing nutrients and be consistent with existing UMass guidelines and 330 CMR 31 language defining fertilizers and other nutrient things. Hoping to avoid situations where people are making arguments that it's not a fertilizer, but it's still nutrient heavy.
Is this excluding any sort of, like, in this, I don't know, in the scenario of a soil test that shows that something is needed for a certain purpose, like, we're just across the board, I realize that this is specifically for this one order of conditions, or are we changing it for everything?
Well,
I'm suggesting it be changed for everything, a replacement for
Yeah,
the statement that we have been for some time
yeah,
making blanket prohibitions against fertilizer application.
yeah.
Your question is though, if your soil is lacking in something and you need to amend it to get it to a healthy soil.
It doesn't really yes, you're right, but it doesn't matter because in the language before, that also wouldn't have been acceptable. So I guess I'm just taking issue with it in general, which I have had an issue with for a while, but it's like, I don't know how to start that discussion.
Yeah,
But
Can you,
since we're
can you be-
changing it, I guess that's why I'm saying something.
can you be more specific about what your concern is or what your issue is? Because I don't.
I think what I don't, I think that if there is a need for some sort of soil amendment in order to have, a vegetable garden, or even like, there are certain things in our landscape that do really well in lean circumstances, and there are other things that, you know, require a different set of soil circumstances. So I guess it's just that, like, if there was a need shown by a soil test or whatever, to amend, it's like, I feel like there needs to be a loophole for a well put forth reason as to why to do something like that. Furthermore, like, if you're, like, things that are growing properly and are healthy and thriving are going to, you know, capture more, nutrients and things like that than like a, you know, depauperate soil. I don't know.
So,
There could be a caveat added, like,
well,
none of this can be done except if you demonstrate that via soil test by a professional, or that this is needed and approved by the commission or something like
That
that.
would make me feel a whole lot better if there
I'm
was.
not in favor of that, I'm sorry. As general language to put anywhere, for one thing, we've been insisting people plant natives, which implies, we're just talking about the 100-foot buffer here. We're not talking about everywhere in town. We're talking about the 100-foot buffer. And we've been insisting people plant natives. And so part of that is plants that will thrive in the existing soil, right? And so if we're leaving an out for just generally leaving an out for people deciding that, oh, they're gonna plant something that requires something more than a generic native, that's one objection to that. The second is, we always have the freedom, when we're issuing an order of conditions, to be a little bit more subtle or make specific exceptions about what we agree on a specific case, something different needs to be done. I think that's gonna be rare, but we always have the opportunity to have that conversation. I would like to see this as the starting language, and when we're issuing an order of conditions and you or anybody else thinks, or the applicant more likely wants to do something different that requires nutrient applications, then we have to satisfy ourselves that whatever they're proposing to do is not going to create further problems. That's my opinion. I'm not proposing here to change our wetlands regulations. So it's not something that's going into a regulation or a bylaw. It's language in the order of conditions.
Yeah,
And
I guess I almost think though that if you have something about soil testing in this language that people do, or, you know, maybe their representatives look at, that it could, like, lead to better results down the road, where it's like you do have certain people who have their property within the, you know, maybe like an important part of their landscape is within the 100-foot buffer. Like, I think there might be better buy-in with, you know, the understanding that in order for certain scenarios to thrive, they have the ability of doing something like that, rather than saying, well, conservation's not gonna say yes, and so, like, we're not gonna ask, or, do you know what I mean? I guess.
can I,
We started at the end of the meeting, weren't we gonna have this conversation
Well,
at the end?
we're almost
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
meeting already, so,
so,
um,
with this, so we can get past this particular permit. Our traditional language, really, it just says no fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides. Based on conversations we have had, that's why I changed it to nutrients. What if, for this permit, because I'm not worried about HCT
right.
adding anything, can I put it back to the original language that we have, which is just no fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides? That's been the used language for a while. And then we can have the conversation about, we're having that brief update anyways, so we can have that conversation. Would you be comfortable with that?
That's fine with me.
Okay, so let's get past this one. So I'm gonna change that word back, because that's kind of how we've done things, and they're not gonna do it anyways, they're restoring it. So, if we can vote on this order of conditions, then we can move on to other things.
Should I make an order, make a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the order of conditions for 0 North Westgate Road, map 66, parcel K1-3, SE 32-2620.
Second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Not for you, for her.
501. Okay, next is discussion and possible vote for a conservation restriction at 19 and 25 Bonnie Lane, which was a condition of our approval for project SE 32-2341, for protection in perpetuity of a .89 acre portion of a parcel of unregistered land for conservation purposes.
We haven't heard back from the state whether the state agrees with the language that was done. We've seen it a few times back and forth, and now it doesn't, they're not here tonight, the applicants, because we're really just waiting to hear from the state. We don't wanna waste your time, essentially, if the state's not gonna approve the language. They should, it's the language they suggested, but, we didn't have that, in the end of the day, so you don't need to vote to continue or anything. We'll just put it on the next agenda once we get that sign off from the state.
So what is different about this language than what the-
Not much. Nothing substantial, but it's verbiage.
Yeah, they've covered,
But, so, it's
It's the
already
language.
a done deal, right?
Well, they haven't executed it yet, no, because they need the state to sign it, to approve it.
It's them donating this piece of land.
But it was a condition of approval of a project within jurisdiction. They had land adjacent, that there was potential for some development on, most of it was wet. But it was a mitigation constrained site, so it was undeveloped. So in lieu of mitigation, in the traditional form that we see of like replanting disturbed area, the commission, used this as a form of mitigation to put a restriction, and they agreed to it on the property.
creative.
Any other comments? I have another comment. It's the same note. Those guys, the last I checked, were still fertilizing on it. We told them they can't do that. It's covered with snow right now.
Yeah,
It's
I
not-
couldn't go check it to this
the
week.
most recent, there's a 2023 satellite photo that looks bright green in that photo. I don't know,
They signed,
If-
they actually have a signed legal document saying that they wouldn't, so I can always, between now and the next time, I can touch base with them on that.
and I don't, even if we determine, and we all agree that they were violating the order of conditions, then what?
You accept the conservation restriction, but then you pursue this as an enforcement matter.
So they don't
You can,
have a certificate of compliance.
They don't
They're
have a
not
cert.
asking for one, 'cause
not
they-
right now, yeah.
Okay.
We said we wanted the conservation restriction in place before we
Before
did the
the certificate.
conservation, or before we did the certificate. We do the minutes real quick first, and then we can have fertilizer conversation.
I couldn't
Where were
find
they?
these
They
minutes,
weren't
I couldn't
online.
find it.
Oh, sorry, they're not,
Yeah.
my bad. At the end of the day, Lisa told me they weren't quite ready yet. That was a big meeting the other night, so she hasn't quite finished.
So can we
So-
just put them forward, or
Huh?
can we just move them forward to next time, or?
Yes, we're not gonna do them at all. So, my bad.
So, then, the next item is discussion and possible vote. A brief update on fertilizer discussion from the last meeting, that is December 3rd. just say why I asked you to put this on the agenda, is trying to set up a meeting with the health department. We talked about that at the beginning of the conversation at our last meeting, but then we didn't close on it at the end, maybe because there clearly wasn't agreement here. But, and I've been communicating with, Carrie. She was gonna, last night, ask the Board of Health, whether they would have a meeting. She thought they would. I have not heard back from her. I did not try to follow up with her today.
I did not touch base with her today on that, totally.
But can we get agreement? I guess that's my question. Then we can maybe have a very time-limited conversation about the topic we were just talking about. But can everybody agree that it would be a good idea to meet with the Board of Health to talk about this? The chairman of the Board of Health is apparently interested in finding some way of addressing the issue. And meeting with them would be a good opportunity to talk to them and get their point of view about these things. I don't get the sense that they have a unanimous point of view either there, but it would be a good thing. So that's the question.
I think meeting is a good collaborative effort. They're ultimately the ones gonna have to uphold things, but you have experience with, conditioning stuff in the buffer zones, as well as you have a lot of knowledge on this board about, the health of the ponds, or lack thereof in some certain circumstances. So I think a joint meeting to hopefully work together, because the Board of Health is considering changes. They don't know what they are gonna be yet, but changes to the regulations, I think it would be a conversation that this board should be a part of.
Comments?
Conversation's probably a good thing to have with them, but pertaining to the discussion that Sophia had opened, I think this is a good opportunity to develop language as a standard paragraph in all of the order of conditions explaining the procedure for precautionary measures in jurisdictional areas. Because really, that's, our purview is only what's in the jurisdiction. To try to stretch this into a broader sense, that may be an admirable quest, but we don't have the tools to do that. I mean, I go back to public education. So if the education out of the language in an order of condition can begin to make people focus on the importance of it, I think that's a healthy step. And I think that language needs to include soil amenities. I think it needs to reference testing. I think it's I think it's an important issue, but I think it needs to be handled properly. And the boilerplate, no more turf builder, isn't gonna work. All it's gonna do is encourage people to do things without asking or without looking back. So, the explanation, I think, is very important, and processing and developing the thought process.
Other comments?
So, I definitely think we should have a meeting with the Board of Health. My question, I guess, for the group, and maybe you, what you're thinking, I do think we need to involve, whether it's cranberry farmers, landscapers, I think we need a bigger cross-section of people, so is that the second meeting? Like, is it the first meeting with the Board of Health, just to kind of figure out where their heads are at, and then we open it up to a wider group?
Just to be clear, we're talking about two different things here. one is language to go into the order of conditions, and the other is
Townwide regulation.
townwide regulation.
Okay.
So what
Yeah.
you're talking about is a
Townwide
townwide.
regulations. As
Okay.
far as the order of conditions, I agree it should be stronger language. So fine, if we wanna get the Board of Health signed off on that. My
I just don't wanna
Well,
be
we
at
don't-
odds.
My
Yeah.
question,
We don't need to get, I'm not suggesting, and
right.
I hope you're not understanding my suggestion, that we need to get the Board of Health to sign off on language and orders of conditions issued by
Mhm.
the Conservation Commission. That is not the objective here.
so for your
Those
Board
are two
of Health.
separate issues,
Okay, so
completely
let's
separate
talk
issues.
about order of conditions first then. If it's just, that's what we're coming up with, that's got nothing to do with your Board of Health meeting.
Right.
And do we wanna resolve that tonight?
I vote no.
I feel like, I hate to say, suggest another meeting on top of a meeting, but I feel like for me to fully understand it, because I think I understand where Sophia's coming from and where you're coming from, John, but I can't really, at this point, at this particular moment in time, fully grasp the difference of it. I would need, maybe out of this meeting, in 10 minutes at the beginning or the end, or 15 minutes at the beginning and to just explain, or to ask clarifying questions, if that
Which,
makes sense.
are you now
I'm talking about
the
order of conditions,
Okay,
yes,
thank
yes.
And the order of conditions, when we've issued the order of conditions, and maybe I've missed this in the few that we've done, is that order of conditions just for the 100 feet
Correct.
buffer, or is it
Yeah.
for the entire, I always feel like we've sort of
Well-
asked them to do the entire, like, you should fertilize any of the yard, not just your 100 feet.
We put that on when the entirety of the yard is in either flood zone or the 100-foot buffer. When there's portions of the property that are outside, and usually are outside of that, usually I say for stuff what's within the 100-foot buffer.
We do.
Sophia?
So my suggestion / request is that we sort of set a date to circle back, excuse the business speak, but so I've been I'm on the board for the Cape Cod Landscape Association. I was talking about it the other day with some of them. I would like some time to kind of gather some more information, and I think it's applicable to both issues. I think it's applicable to the language in the order of conditions, and then certainly the town vote. And yeah, I think having kind of a date to come back to this where we know we need to be prepared by then, because I know that this stuff can get kicked down the road really easily, and weeks turn a year.
Mhm.
It's amazing, right?
Mhm.
So I don't want that to happen, but this is, not that this is about me, but if I want to put energy into it, which I do, this is a good time of year for that to happen. And I would just ask that is something that we could consider as kind of letting us all do our own thing for those of us who want to do that, and then having a specific date to come back.
I think it would be helpful too, and I don't mind taking it on in our department to do it, is researching what the other towns do too, and reaching out and seeing how it's actually working. If they have conditions or bylaws or regulations that they traditionally put on, and just kind of seeing that. I would suggest, because on the 7th, coming up, we have a couple of bigger hearings, and Susan won't be here, and then John and Viv may not be here on the 21st, that maybe we consider doing a Friday work session on just this topic, because we could talk for a long time on this. If Friday's not good, let me know what other days are possible. It seems like that's worked okay in the past for things we've done.
I hate to continue the conversation, but I feel like I need to respond to a couple of things. And one is, I am very concerned that if we put language in our orders of conditions that suggest that if a permit holder satisfies certain conditions, they can have a bright green lawn that they maintain as a non-native lawn. And telling people, well, if they do appropriate soil testing and prove that they're lacking nutrients, that's gonna open the door to rather than making things more restrictive, making things more permissive. And I just don't agree with that at all. I don't see how that's a good idea at all. I understand in the broader sense, I get, and the other part of it is that you read the state documents, if you ever do that, it says very clearly there's no way of establishing a level of nitrogen in a lawn. There are no soil tests that accomplish that. Soil tests are for phosphorus, not for nitrogen. So, people plant a non-native lawn, and then in order to keep it looking nice, they have to put nitrogen on it. But there's actually no way of establishing how much nitrogen is actually required, what's in the soil. That's problematic. So I don't see that. And just the other piece, I just want to go back to the thing that motivated me to start talking about this, which is people who apply products which are clearly way over the state recommended limits. And they're soil amendments, they're not fertilizers. But they have, 5 times the nitrogen in them. And, way more phosphorus than you should ever put down in them. And I just think that we need a way to make sure in the orders of conditions that this cannot proceed. And I really don't want to see the Conservation Commission approving those kinds of applications because they're clearly going to cause problems. And we have no way of determining they're not going to cause problems. So that's my motivation. And I will stop here. And I'm sure we can go around many more times. And I think a Friday workday, the only thing about that is I also said to Carrie we could possibly do a Friday if they,
But they haven't picked one yet.
they have.
We can pick one.
Right.
I think everybody should bring their ideas, and I mean, everybody has the right to have like all of our ideas aired, and vetted, so I think seeing things in writing is very helpful, rather than conceptually, so I'll just add that there.
Do we wanna have a work session with just us before we meet with them?
I think we kinda need to.
Yeah.
I think we need to. So if we pick one, then that's one that they can't have.
So our first meeting,
Is the 7th? I guess I would propose an off week from a meeting week. I would propose January 16th, which is, I think, Martin Luther King weekend, the start of it, but. No, you're gone on the 21st.
That's like
It's a tough one.
Yeah, Cape Cod Landscape Association's big expo that week.
Do it the 30th. I mean, with the holidays, time's gonna fly by anyways, so there's the 30th.
I could probably make the 30th.
He'll be here before you know it. That's for us.
Just us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throw out some other days. It doesn't have to be a Friday.
The 29th?
No particular.
The 29th?
objection. 29th.
It's a Thursday, afternoon.
Does that give you enough time to get more information?
I think it does,
Okay.
yeah.
One 1:30 on the 29th. I'll see if I can, it might be in the Griffin Room. And it's just a work session, so
Okay, so, wait, we're on
it's a
Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
The volunteer fair is that day.
Is it all, it's at 3?
To win.
3 to 6.
Can we do 1:30? Is that cutting it too close?
Fine.
Sometimes we go to that too to try to get
Yeah.
more
Do that.
volunteers. Thursday mornings are tough for me. We have a standing community development meeting that I have to attend. So, 1 o'clock on that
I
Thursday?
would say move it down to 12:30 or 1 o'clock, give us a little time.
1 o'clock on the 29th?
Yeah.
1:29, 1 PM, work group. Discussion on conditions. Okay,
One thing we need to make clear, that commercial agriculture is exempt from all this. So I heard Susan mention the word cranberries a while ago. Cranberries are not part of this. It's part of the normal maintenance and practices of growing cranberries per order of the state.
yeah, the state regulation.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
I got a few things if we wanna kick
Sure.
them around. Did you ever get a hold of Champion Tree Service?
I have not yet. I've been scrambling and I finally got the enforcement out to the owner, but that is on my list.
Okay.
I did have a clarifying question on that one. So I haven't heard from them at all, like not Champion, the owner at all, since our last meeting. Not a huge deal. He's got technically 3 months to do these things. But the direction at the last meeting was just to be in touch with Champion. We don't have this as an agenda item today, so I want to be careful about this.
Okay.
We could put it on for the next time if you want, or if you want me to call them in here. But if your direction was for me to also find them, that would have to be done during, another agenda. Because you didn't direct me to find them.
Right.
You
Did
just,
when that outfit on Great Western Road, when we had the same similar thing, did we find that
Did.
contractor?
we did, the owner ended up paying for it, but we did find,
Yeah, I
we
thought so, so it's, to be consistent, we probably
And
gonna
was
have
it
to
a
look
similar
into
thing
that.
the owner
It was.
instructed the other one?
Yeah.
No?
Did a clear cut all the way down to the marsh.
It was very similar, actually, wasn't it?
that
In
one
terms
was
of the
less
topography and everything, but just-
clear where the wetland line was, whereas this one was very evident that you're like right on the wetland. That one, it was
pretty
down the hill, I mean, it was, yeah, both, so, and this is a large company that we've had conversations with in the past, so, about this type of stuff. So, if you would like me to invite them to our next meeting, I would, and put it on the agenda again, I'd be happy to do that, and you can decide what you want to do.
We need to vote to have you do it?
Not on the agenda, no.
I for one would like to see them here.
Well, to your point about it being consistent across
Right.
the board, like they were both involved in the last.
We'll invite them, I mean, if they decide not to come, it'll still be on the agenda, you can take action.
Okay. And also, I was up at North Road, went by the little cottage there, a friend up there on the river, and I see there's an excavator packed in the yard across the, I don't know what they're up to, if
They're finally
anything.
doing their septic system,
Is that what it is? Yeah, okay.
only 7 years later.
And also, up at the herring run, I know it's a little early, but we should get something going this spring. We need to put a single rail, perhaps fence across the front of that, where that, the pool is between the two flumes. It's very dangerous. You walk up to the edge, you could fall right
Oh,
into the
between the
water.
old pipe and
Yeah,
then, yeah, I've
exactly.
been thinking we should do that for a while, because
Yeah.
they just,
I should think it'd be a simple thing to do.
I'll ask DPW. New rail,
Well, you know, we're gonna have some little kid floating down the river.
better hope it's high tide. Sorry, that was,
You are wearing your Grinch shirt, so we will give you a pass.
That's all I
oh,
have.
Lord, I hope. Yep, we're on
I
air,
have one other
okay.
little thing.
do too.
I just meant the fall would be less if the tide was high.
We got it, we understood where you're going.
That's your story, you're sticking to it, huh?
All right,
Uh,
sorry.
I wanted to mention one thing. The Cape Cod Technology Council has a thing they call First Fridays, where they have a speaker the first Friday of the month. In January, the first Friday is gonna be the second Friday of the month, the 9th. And their speaker then is a fellow named Bob Wells of New England Biochar. And he's gonna be do you know Bob Wells?
I do know Bob Wells.
And that's something that's held at
The soil
Keys,
amendment.
Four Cs at, like, there's sort of meet and greet at 7:30 in the morning, and the talk usually goes from 8 to 9. People are
What is he
interested.
gonna be talking about?
Biochar, that's the new
Biochar.
thing, isn't it?
Biochar? What is that?
Fertilizer.
How
Hello?
biochar is being used to improve soil health, sequester
Oh.
carbon, and reduced environmental impact. And the talk will highlight practical applications in agriculture, water remediation, and sustainable building materials.
Can you send that to me and I'll send it to the group?
I'm gonna, this is a, sort of a, this is an email that has a bunch of different events on it, but it also, it has that specific thing. I will.
I always pull it out.
I have one quick thing, if you're done, John.
I am.
And just to stir the pot, like, biochar is one of the things I'm thinking of with the language of soil amendments specifically. So, anyway, TBD, to be discussed.
Cool. Well, and it's so appropriate. It's before our meeting at the end of the month.
See what Bob has to say.
When I tried to talk to Russ Norton about that, and he was pretty dismissive.
There are, yeah, that's
Dismissive of the
big,
biochar?
big
Yeah.
opinions about it.
Yeah, right.
I was just gonna say, I wanna keep the salt discussion alive. I know, I fully respect that, I kind of got the gist from that letter, but I do feel like it's worth a discussion, and that letter was a little bit dismissive, I think. And there's some good research out there that, like, if we're gonna be talking about all of this stuff, I was thinking about Forest Street specifically, driving down it the other day, where it's just like, whatever we're putting on it is going straight off. So if we're going to the trouble of talking about septic systems, we're talking about fertilizers, like, why are we not also talking about salt if that has an impact on the health of our water bodies and our, marshes and stuff like that. So I don't know how we do that in a way that's, like, productive without making it a whole big thing, or if it could be part of our conversation, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to bring it back up.
Do you have some, like, quantitative analysis
I
of
just
the effect?
emailed you some things.
You did?
Yeah, right before the meeting, because I
Oh.
forgot the last 2 weeks.
Okay.
I
For reading.
can look up more. Just feel like it's worth a discussion.
Short of, I've tried to talk a few times, and unfortunately, that letter was really the only thing I could get out of them.
Yeah.
It was very clear that they take their direction from the select board, so it might be unfortunately, that might be the next route, is to have just, to ask for a discussion.
Yeah.
Who's our liaison now?
I think Jeff, I think it's Jeff.
I can call Jeff and ask him, do we want to get on their agenda?
On their agenda,
Do you wanna represent
or
this
maybe
issue
just,
in
I don't know
front
if
of
it's an agenda item per se yet, or maybe if there's a way that as our liaison, we can
Could we make,
maybe have a meeting with our liaison on the select board, one of,
Have him come
or
here
have
to,
him
like,
come
our
to
next-
one of our meetings and put the salt guy on the agenda for us?
I don't know how that would happen,
Sounds
but
like-
I think maybe a conversation with, I don't wanna tick anybody off if unnecessarily, if we don't have to as well, but maybe treat it softly, have a conversation with Jeff, see if it's a conversation that we can have with Jeff and the director
Yeah.
and myself, or a member of the commission.
But based on what you sent John, like, are there good questions we could be asking someone that we didn't think
I think so, yeah, just, like, even if we're just having the discussion of, I think part of the whole thing is budget, right? Like, we're spending X amount right now to treat with salt, and like, some of these other treatments are more expensive. The sand thing, I guess, is more expensive with labor after and maybe during and things like that, but like, I think the discussion could be had, yeah, just as a, can we look at the cost benefit sort of.
I get the impression that that there's no discussion
Right.
to be had based on the response, so
Yeah.
it's almost as if it's a problem that you kind of have to solve yourself and then say, would you not try this? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's more of a, I don't know what the answer is, Sophia, but that's the, if
Yeah,
there's.
I don't know what other towns might be using,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
what other
Do you know what
towns'
I mean? Like, if you
practices
said,
might be.
have you ever tried X, Y,
Yeah.
and that might open the door to a discussion, as opposed to saying, what about, why are you not using sand, or what's the cost, or whatever, I feel like they've answered the questions, and that's the end of it, kind of thing.
I know, yeah.
I've got a point. At what level does jurisdictional play a role in that conversation?
Guess we'd have to prove that there was a issue with water quality directly as a result of, that there was an impact to a wetland itself as a result of
Like,
the
so all of a
action.
sudden, that's gonna bring it down to a very confined area, blotches all over town.
Right.
So that's a whole lot bigger topic than it might appear at the surface.
Problem is, if you're not proactive and
Mhm.
we can only deal with it after it happens, that means the water's contaminated. Then
Mhm.
we deal with it, that's no good.
Mhm.
There have been some really good studies of like maybe one of the ones I sent John, but I'll try and find it and send it to the group where
Yeah.
like there have been specific instances where they are able to measure like the before and after of these salt treated roadways and like what is the impact it had on whatever water body is nearby. So like there is precedent elsewhere,
Good.
even just to have the conversation. I mean, if they're like, oh, the only town nearby that treats with this fancy non-salt stuff is like, Sudbury, and it costs $7 million a year, then like, okay, we've at least like knocked on that door. But if we can just look at what the options are and why we might want to consider them, I just feel like
Yeah.
why not?
I think it's a good idea to look at those other options and then, like you said, have a meeting and maybe present that, rather than, because he's just gonna, they may just say, well, prove it.
Yeah,
You don't
So-
wanna complicate this.
So just
Do
prove
quite
it, you know?
simple.
yeah.
Start getting into the nitty gritty of tests and this and that and the other thing, it's gonna get so convoluted that it'll never happen.
Well,
It's
maybe
very
we
simple,
can-
just mix 10% salt with 90% sand and put it on the road, it's the end of it.
Sounds good to me. Maybe we could do it after fertilizer.
But, so, the thing you sent to me, and if there are other things, can you put them all in a single email, send it to Amy, and she will
Yes,
share it with
yep.
Mhm.
Sure.
the commission?
There are areas up on Route 25, there's a lot of cranberry bogs in that country up there. They have a no salt thing on
Yeah.
Route 25.
Yeah, I
And
said the same about
the reason
Concord.
for that is because of the cranberry bogs right
Yeah.
there.
Well,
So do you see, I mean, your bogs aren't near a big road,
No,
right?
no,
So
just Main Street, but it's far enough away, it's not a problem. And they're also down gradient of my bogs.
are you aware of other bogs that are closer to a road that's had no
Not
salt?
anymore, they've eliminated most of them around town.
Say the one on one
Yeah,
twenty-four used to be
124,
pretty
Bank Street would
close.
have been,
Bank Street would have been close.
Hoyt Road and all that, but they're all gone now anyway, so.
Great Western's not that
But
close.
it's, the point is,
Yeah,
is
a couple
we don't
more.
want it to get into the ground, into the water table,
No.
you know?
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
So I guess that leaves, shall I call Jeff now or wait until we get a little more together to present something to him?
Let's
I don't
get,
wanna
let's
just
take
start
let's take a
conversation
couple
with-
weeks, let's get through the holidays, put some stuff together and then,
I'll send out an email with what I have found.
That'd be great.
Please just go through Amy's,
No. I have a few,
open meeting.
Sure.
We can't have a conversation on email about
Let's get
Sure.
our
That's right.
and then.
The Grinch. Don't have anything else for you other than, I mean, you can close the meeting if you want. I have a few things, it doesn't require a vote, couple documents we have to reissue for people, who lost the originals, so on your way out, if you could sign them. We need to close the meeting.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting in the Harwich Conservation Commission of December 17th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we're done.